A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a significant development for Australian exports, President Donald Trump has hinted at the possibility of imposing tariffs of up to 20% on goods sold to the United States. This announcement has raised concerns among Australian officials and increased political pressure on Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who has yet to secure a direct meeting with Trump or an exemption from the existing 10% tariffs on Australian goods entering the US. During a press conference in Scotland, Trump expressed his intention to establish a single tariff rate for the rest of the world and indicated that the new tariff rates would be disclosed within days. Although Australia was not specifically mentioned as one of the countries facing these higher tariffs, Trump's comments suggest a broader strategy of not negotiating individual deals with various nations. Currently, Australian exports are subject to a baseline tariff of 10%, which was implemented earlier this year, separate from the elevated tariffs on steel and aluminum. The Albanese government is actively seeking to mitigate the impact of potential higher tariffs, but with a looming deadline of August 1st, time is of the essence. A spokesperson for Trade Minister Don Farrell emphasized that any tariffs on Australian goods are seen as unjustified and detrimental to the U.S. economy. The spokesperson reiterated Australia's commitment to advocating for the removal of all tariffs in alignment with the existing free trade agreement with the United States. In the opposition, Coalition Trade spokesperson Kevin Hogan has criticized Albanese for failing to secure a face-to-face meeting with Trump, highlighting the urgency of the situation. Hogan stated, "We as the opposition disagree with Trump's tariff policy, but again, it reinforces the urgency and the great disappointment that our Prime Minister hasn't had a face-to-face meeting with Trump." He urged Albanese to travel to the U.S. to present Australia's case and advocate for free trade, which is crucial for Australia as a trading nation. Albanese attempted to discuss tariff issues with Trump during the G7 summit in Canada in June. However, Trump departed early to focus on the Middle East, resulting in the cancellation of the Australian talks. Critics have pointed out that Albanese should have arranged another meeting with Trump since then. At the press conference in Scotland, Trump stated, "We're going to be setting a tariff for essentially the rest of the world, and that's what they're going to pay if they want to do business in the United States." He further clarified that the anticipated tariff range would likely be between 15% and 20%, emphasizing the impracticality of negotiating separate deals with numerous countries. In response to Trump's statements, Assistant Treasurer Daniel Mulino sought to downplay the implications, suggesting that Trump's comments were likely made off the cuff and that specifics would need to be awaited. Australia remains in a situation where we've got as good a deal as anybody, and we continue to engage with the U.S. government intensely on these matters, Mulino remarked. Trump has recently negotiated significant trade deals with several countries, including Indonesia and the Philippines, both of which will incur a 19% tariff on their exports to the U.S. Additionally, agreements with Japan and the European Union have resulted in a 15% tariff on most of their exports to the U.S. However, details about specific products subject to these tariffs have yet to be fully disclosed. In April, when Trump initially imposed the 10% baseline tariff on Australia, he cited Australian restrictions on U.S. beef as a contributing factor. In a move that some interpreted as a response to Trump's pressure, the Australian government recently eased its restrictions on beef imports from North America, citing scientific advice on quarantine safeguards. Albanese, however, insisted that this decision was not made to appease the U.S. president, despite the Trump administration framing it as a victory for their trade policies. As the situation unfolds, Australian officials are bracing for the potential economic impact of these tariffs, which could strain trade relations between the two countries. With the August 1st deadline approaching, the Albanese government is under increasing pressure to secure a favorable outcome for Australian exporters and to navigate the complexities of international trade in an era of shifting policies and tariffs. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.